What's good, sports fans? Back in the house on Friday Eve. It's been a long week, Webs. Extremely long week. Extremely long week.
Indeed.
So, as always, with Intelligent Hoodlums, here doing interesting things, very interesting things, extremely interesting things. And tonight we're going to have a uh, interesting show for you, as we always do, Webs, as we always do. It should be
Well,
interesting.
I think it's interesting.
Uh,
Sometimes I think this is purely for our own enjoyment and no one else's.
and if
And
you
I'm okay with that.
Exactly. If you don't enjoy your work, like who else is going to enjoy it? So we'll be
It's
fine.
true. It's true.
So in the grand scheme of things, tonight we're going to be diving into the fact that you are not a special person, right? And it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you're not a special person. Very good thing, because if you were a special person, your life would be a lot more difficult than what it is right now. So you're not a special person, and we have to. You're special because you're not special. We'll say that, and that allows us to do things that are so much greater than what we'd be potentially be able to do by ourselves. And if you are confused by that statement, hopefully we will unconfuse you as we go through. All right. There are no teams of one, my friends. So teams of ones do not win. Uh, Tennis, even like tennis players and golf players, they have coaches and people that make sure that their strokes are correct and their technique is good and whatnot. One does not learn in a vacuum. It does not happen. Be successful that way. There are no what is the term that people talk about? Self-made millionaires. That's a bunch of like rubbish. Like who was the what was the Kardashian sister that was a self-made millionaire, billionaire, or something crazy? The
What's that
young
one?
one,
The one with the K?
Kylie Jenner. Yes, so Kylie Jenner was a
There you go.
self-made something, and I was like, that's dubious, fam. That's dubious. Um,
Also, my new philosophy is ABP, always be pairing, which, as Mike pointed out the other day, is just a fancy term for having a partner.
but it sounds cool though.
Yeah, it does. ABP.
So
Hashtag ABP.
just keep all the way 100 though. Like literally, there are no teams of one. If you try to act as a team of one, you're probably gonna lose. Just saying. So, um, as we go through what we're going to deal with today, like we're really looking at distance learning has amplified this issue in a very very huge way, and in a way that when we were siloed in our classrooms, perhaps we could avoid. Right. So as always, we're the Intelligent Hoodlums. Catch us at intelligenthoodlums.com, at Trusted Hoodlum on the Twitters. That's Webs. I'm Mike. Let's get to the program. Webs, as we always start off with, we have this Ask a Software Developer Hustle here, and I really want to get your take first before we get to the actual question. Like there was locally a security intrusion with the local school district. Like, could you give us some tips and tricks to minimize our exposure if you were someone who was potentially affected by that?
Sure. Well, first things first, if you've already been the customer of a breach, then you want to make sure you're checking on your credit. You can put a freeze on in the three major credit bureaus. So that's the first thing. If you've already been exposed and you don't have anything in place to kind of protect yourself. That said, going forward, ways to protect yourself. For example, like I could potentially have been a person whose information was shared during that breach, and I'm not super worried about it because one, I have some good practices in place for the common things that people steal. Two, I'm always keeping tabs on my credit to make sure that if there's anything new opened, I'm aware of it. But one of the biggest things is using the same credentials for everything, using the same password for everything. That's probably one of the most common ways that you're going to have your information stolen or your accounts compromised. Because what happens is, they get the people who steal the information. Usually, the compromise is actually a human compromise. It's like a phishing scam where they've sent an email saying, oh, I'm some business or I'm your employer and I need a copy of, oh, I need to know your password or I need these specific credentials, whatever. So it's usually people that are actually the biggest weak point, I guess you could say. Um, and what happens is, so for example, let's say you have one specific credential you use to log into most of your things at school. And you use that same password for Amazon and your bank and let's say your credit card and everything else. So once they have that password, if they know the email that you're using, or they can take a decent guess at what your email is, because it's not too terribly difficult to get, then they can just start plugging it into every major website where they might want to get information. Like I've heard people have had their credit union accounts compromised, people have had their Amazon accounts compromised. There was another one too that I saw. PERS has been compromised, their pension retirement savings. So that's probably one of the most common things is don't use the same password for everything. Use a password manager if at all possible. Even if you use the password management on your browser, so Safari, Firefox, and Chrome all have the ability to save your password. Even that is better, and making your passwords random. They can be random objects that are around you at the time that you're creating a password. They can be just random strings. Don't use common things like pets' names or birth dates or addresses or children's names. Those are really easy to guess and predict. Use completely random things and use something else to remember it. Otherwise, it's going to become overwhelming to try to remember all those passwords. Like it's not humanly possible. So, my best suggestion is use a password manager. They are relatively easy to use once you get used to them. Both my mom and one of my friends, I've kind of helped them out, and they will attest to the fact that using a password manager is like life changing. So yeah, that would be my advice, because the number one thing is that you're going to use those same passwords everywhere, and then it becomes easy to go right through and compromise a bunch of accounts because I have that one password so I can get everything. The other piece would be turn on two-factor or multi-factor authentication, because that means even if they did get your password, they would need some other secondary way of authenticating. And that is just when it sends you that little code over text, that is multi-factor authentication. Sometimes you have an application like a Authenticator, Google Authenticator, or Authy. Those tools can be used and connected to your account so that you have to like look at that app and punch in the code from that app in order to further access your account. And that's beneficial because if they were to get your password and your username, they still wouldn't be able to access your account because they probably don't have access to your cell phone or whatever else you're using as that second factor of authentication. I would recommend against using your email as that second factor of authentication, because should your email become compromised, now you don't have access to it. And that's another one that can be easily compromised. So those would be my top tips for keeping yourself safe on the internet.
Interessante. So there are a number of teachers that also handwrite their passwords and maybe keep them in a Rolodex and stuff. Is that a great practice to use?
It's not the best, especially because, so like often companies, and I don't think this is necessarily true with school districts, but often companies will ask another company to come in and do like an infiltration and try to find passwords and stuff. The number one place people keep their passwords at work is on a piece of paper under their keyboard. So it's just as easy if there's a break in, they can steal your passwords that way. It is perhaps a slightly better option if you keep it someplace locked up than, say, putting it in a Google Sheet on Google Drive unprotected. So it's really a sliding scale. I mean, the benefits to having it written down on a piece of paper are you can only get access to it if you're in that one specific place, which isn't really helpful to you as the user if you need to use it other places. And if you're making copies of it to put lots of places, that makes it worse. So also it's there's the possibility of it getting damaged, getting lost, getting stolen. The advantage to having using a password manager is it's encrypted. Um, It is, depending on the password manager, it's encrypted locally, or the encrypted version is stored remotely. You can only be decrypted like on your local whatever you're using. That's not true for all of them, but it is true for a lot of them. It's available to you everywhere. Um, so you don't have to worry about like, oh, I left my notebook full of passwords at school or at work. You don't want to carry it back and forth because then there's more of a chance that it gets lost or stolen. So probably not the greatest choice. And also you're going to run into that whole issue of, okay, if I'm creating a bunch of, because one of the nice things about a password manager is it will generate passwords for you, random strings depending on like how many characters you need, what characters you want to use, do you want it to be pronounceable. So a password manager offers a lot more benefits when it comes to generating passwords as well that you can't get from a notebook.
It'll also tell you when you've used that password more than once, which is
Yep, yep, yep.
very beneficial. I mean, me, I always use hip hop lyrics. Like all my passwords are hip hop lyrics, so I never forget them.
Most of them too have some sort of mechanism built in to tell you when your password has been compromised. So there is a website called haveibeenpwned.com. A lot of them interface with that in some way so that it'll tell you, hey, we found your email address for this account on the that it's been part of a breach. So you'll want to change this password. A notebook can't do that.
Facts. All right. Cool. And that's from yeah. What security certification you have? What is that called again?
I have Security Plus, CompTIA Security Plus certified.
So that's from a TIAA Security Plus certified individual. So yeah, that's just I know people are perhaps worried about that a little bit, but there are some steps you can take. Again, making sure that you're watching your credit, um, freezing your credit if
I,
necessary. Go ahead.
I think too that's a literacy that we're not taught. It's a literacy that you can only have access to if you have access to people who have that knowledge. So it's kind of an elitist thing too to just like frown on like how could you not know that? And in my experience has been in information security, folks in that field tend to be a bit smug and condescending. Not everybody, but a lot of them. Um, and so, it's a privilege to have access to that information. I want to share it with as many people as I can because the more knowledgeable you are. I'll also throw in there if you ever get an email and it looks suspicious, or even if it doesn't, like if it says, hey, click here to update your bank information, go directly to your bank website, log in. If it says change your password, go to the bank website and change your password. Do not click on the link in your email. It's amazing how authentic that some scammers can make emails look. That's another big thing is like avoid clicking on links in your email at all costs. Always go directly to the website if at all possible. You can right click and just copy the link and then paste it in a plain text like notebook to see what it looks like. Make sure it's legit. Make sure it seems legit. Like if it's a Bed Bath and Beyond coupon, it should say bedbathandbeyond.com, not, super duper cheap, bonuses.org or whatever. So also be aware of those things. Phishing attempts in that respect are really common as well. Viruses and whatnot.
X. All right. So that's a little PSA from a software developer to start our show off. But Webs, what happens when you get like in your day job, right? You get a little something out of the ordinary happens that stops you from being successful at a particular thing. Like how does one like overcome the strange random code that just injected itself into your project or whatever? Like what do you do to figure that out?
Oh my gosh. So if you go to Twitter, you'll see a lot of developers talking about how most of their job is just Googling things. And that is not a lie. Yeah, like so this happens on a daily basis. I think if you were to see my screen at the end of the day, there's usually like 20 plus tabs open of like articles that I've been reading, documentation, Google searches, Stack Overflow posts, sometimes Reddit, like go just about anywhere to try and find the solution to a problem. So yeah, a lot of it is just Googling. Like, I mean, I ask my colleagues, but I usually exhaust my Google options before I go ask my colleagues. Like if I just am at my wit's end and have searched everything and read every article and tried every solution I could find, then I'll go to my colleagues and be like, all right, I'm stuck. Somebody help me. But mostly the first thing I do is like if I get an error message in my terminal, I'll copy it and search Google. Usually there's a Stack Overflow posting. Stack Overflow is where like people post their computer problems. Um, so I look there. Documentation is huge. So hopefully, whatever tool I'm using or um, whatever framework I'm using has some decent documentation, and I can look through. Like for example, I've been working with a new testing framework for our infrastructure, and so I read through that documentation like the entire website yesterday trying to solve this problem. So most websites, even non-technical ones, like not developer related, have some sort of documentation that you can go to be like, how do I do XYZ on this? Or what do I do if I want to delete my account? I feel like that's one of the ones as a normal consumer of things I have to look for a lot is how do I delete my account? Because sometimes they bury it or you have to call a number or I don't know, do a seance or something. So yeah, documentation, Googling stuff. And I think there's a certain level of literacy with Googling things as well that you kind of have to be able to sort through what things are most relevant to your problem and what things aren't. What things are legit like advice that you could follow and what things are like maybe a little more shady. Some of that is intuitive and just from experience Googling things. Knowing which terms to Google, like sometimes you can just Google your question and that will give you kind of what you're looking for. Knowing which keywords to look for, the more broad your keyword is. Like I ran into the problem where I use shortcuts on my iPhone a lot, and when you search shortcuts, that's a broad enough term. It doesn't always specifically look for like iOS shortcuts, so I have to add like iOS shortcuts, blah blah blah, to specify like that shortcuts, not like any shortcuts. Like I'm driving and I think I'm going to take this road instead of that road kind of shortcuts. So, yeah, Googling and documentation are probably like the two biggest things that I do to solve my problems. Last resort is asking my colleagues.
Facts. And again, not to say that asking your colleagues isn't like a choice, right? It's just the last thing that you do.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because usually someone else out there has had that problem. And so if I can get to it without interrupting someone else, then I'd rather do that.
So, why is the show called You're Not Special? Be-
Ooh, I know, I know.
Let me spoiling the surprise.
No, no, no. Go ahead, go ahead.
You know, you're not special because the internet exists, right? There's a body of knowledge that any problem generally, like novel phenomena, is very rare, right? There's very rare circumstances in our current human existence in which you say that is something that we've never seen before. Now, COVID 19, the actual virus is novel, but a pandemic is not. This is something that has happened previously in human existence, etc. Right? So there's a reason why we've said, oh, if you wear a mask, perhaps we had some tried and true strategies that hopefully allowed us to um, avoid a lot of the catastrophes that like what millions of people died in 1918, right? Millions of people died. Not to say a million is not a lot of people. It is a lot of people, and there's a lot of pain and whatnot. But it pales in comparison to 1918. That being the case, for those who know me well. I am a movie buff. I love films. I love films, and I love films. There are three films that are in like my pantheon of films that I quote all the time, and we're gonna look at one of them. And Gene Hackman, if you're not a Gene Hackman fan, we can't be friends. Um, Gene Hackman is one like the goats. And there is a incredible movie, David Mamet. If you're not a David Mamet fan, we probably can't be friends either. So David Mamet directed the movie Heist. Incredible. If you're into robbery films, Heist, and The Score are probably my two favorite heist films. Score, De Niro, and the heist with Gene Hackman. But anyway, there's a quote that I want to share with you. I'm just going to share that screen really quickly. And this is kind of what I mean by the fact that we're not special people. So, if you look here, Gene Hackman plays a character named Joe Moore. It's kind of a the synopsis of the story without giving it away is the beginning of the movie starts out with a heist. He is unfortunately caught on camera, so he has to it compromises his ability to do his job. But he also moonlights as a gentleman who restores boats. So this rich guy, Da Freccia, comes in and is like, "Hey, I want to buy this boat. There's a particular problem with the boat," and Freccia comes in and says, "Hey, how did you solve that problem?" That's essentially how it's set up. And so he says, "Hey, you're a pretty smart fella." And Hackman says, "Oh no, I'm not really that smart." Okay. He says, "If you're not that smart, how exactly did you figure that out?" And Joe Moore, Gene Hackman, says something that always sticks in my head when I have problems. "I tried to imagine a fella smarter than myself. Then I tried to think, what would he do?" And that's always something that sticks in my head, to kind of do this out of body experiment when you come into a position where you have some issues, where you're not reliant on yourself as this special person, but you're looking outside of yourself for solutions to a problem. And I think a lot of times what happens is, uh, and it happened to multiple students of mine today and multiple people that I work with on a daily basis. It's this: I get stuck because I'm trying to solve a problem rather than thinking about the vast number of people, the resources that you could use to solve this problem, rather than just having to rely on yourself. So I call that being Joe Moore. Like, always be Joe Moore. Always perceive that there's somebody smarter than you, that's more adept than you are, etc. And what would that person do, rather than being stuck in your own skin? And so we're going to kind of do this internet deal. Webb's kind of mentioned the first kind of object here, right? Googling. Like, Google was a company that became a verb, right? We Google everything. And kind of where this is coming from a little bit as well, as in the last month, we've had Zoom go down. We have had Nearpod went down today. Microsoft has gone down. Google's gone dark. Like, what do we do when these things happen? Like, how do you go and figure out, oh, it's not just me, it's the world's Google is out. The world's Nearpod is out, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that is becoming more and more of a skill that's not a optional skill anymore. It is a absolutely positively necessary skill in order for us to not only be successful in our jobs as educators, but also to ensure that our students have that skill, so when they go out into the world, they're able to do something my dad said. All right. And my dad always told me this, and that's another thing that I ride or die by. He said, "You never want your boss to know what you don't know." And I've always rode with that, right? Always. I am not asking my boss squat. I'm going to go out and find it and impress my boss with, how did you do that? Oh, it wasn't nothing, whatever. But I don't want you to know 25 minutes ago I had no idea what you were talking about, how that was done. I'm going to go and do my due diligence to ensure that I'm always the person that's not going to get on that the chopping block there. So, Webbs, if like we talked a little bit about Googling, but also like there are some of us that are averse to social media. Do you have to join social media to access social media?
No, but I kind of want to talk through like what so let's say something goes down, right?
Mm,
For example, Microsoft went down last week and that threw a wrench into a lot of people's plans. So, if something goes down, where are the possible places it could be broken, I guess you could say, right? So, it could be on my specific device. It could be my internet that is causing the problem where I can't get out of my, house or whatever.
mm,
It could be my internet service provider is down and that's why it's not working right. It could be that company is down and that's why it's not working right. But with each of those steps, there are ways to check and test if that's the case. So if it's my device, I would try another device. Hopefully, I have a second device that I can try. So if I'm on my laptop, I would try my phone. If I'm on my phone, I try my laptop. If I'm on my, I could try my iPad, whatever. Try a different device, see if that works. Okay, if that's not working, then maybe it's your internet. So if you're on your cell phone, then try turning off your Wi-Fi and just being on cellular,
mm.
because then that takes your internet out of the equation. Text or call a friend and ask them to check a website for you. Like, hey, can you access this? It's another way. If you are having problems with just one website, try going to a different one. If you can get that one, it's probably not your Wi-Fi. So like those are all ways of troubleshooting that. Internet service provider, if it was that, then everything would be out as well. So you can kind of narrow that down. If you think it's another company, there's a couple of options. Most companies have a status page. So if you just search for like status page Microsoft or status page Twitter, it's usually something like status.twitter.com or status.office365.com or something like that. So the status page will tell you if that service is up, if it's degraded. There we go, words. If it's just not working, maybe in certain regions or certain parts of it aren't working. So if it's Office, maybe Excel isn't working or something like that. Yeah, there you go. There's Nearpod status page. If it could also be down completely. So like right now that's up, and they'll tell you when they've had past incidents as well. So it'll kind of give you a breakdown of, hey, here's what happened, here's how we're planning to, fix it if it doesn't work, so that it doesn't happen again, that kind of a thing. So that is one way of doing it. You can also look on Twitter, and as you're going, like answering your question, no, you don't have to belong to that social media in order to look and see what people are talking about or go to that official page for that product. So like if you did Nearpod Twitter, it would take you to their Twitter page, and it would probably tell you like, hey, we're currently experiencing difficulties, like please hold, I guess, or whatever. And then that would give you your answer. It doesn't require having an account. You can just search, whatever it is you're looking for, Twitter. And another benefit, if you haven't, I think it might be just a Google thing, but if you search for whatever it is, Twitter or whatever that topic is, sometimes it'll give you little highlights of social media. So it'll give you highlights from Twitter. And like when Microsoft was down the other day, it was like, Microsoft is down. We're investigating. Microsoft is down. I knew right away like something was wrong. Yeah, those little things at the top where it shows the Twitter. It'll sometimes fill those out with different people's accounts that are mentioning that company or that topic. So those are all ways to troubleshoot. Like if you think something is down and you're not sure what, yeah. Oh, hey, Outlook.com is down right now. Perfect example. Does it have a mention on there?
It does on its Google page. So if you notice there,
There you go. Check the date on it. So that's another like kind of pro tip, I guess, is make sure a few hours ago or whatever, and you didn't actually accidentally find a tweet from like last week, and it's not actually a problem.
so that was last night. So interesting. A lot of us were
Yeah.
asleep at 11:03. So probably didn't.
Well, on this side of the world.
Well, yes, this is true. So very interesting. So that's one of the like the social media thing is one of the things that I always come back to because a lot of teachers are like, oh, I don't want to do social media. Well, you don't need to do social media. You just need to know it exists and it can be accessed. Most like Twitter is free and open. I mean, you can't interact if you don't have an account, but you can go and read whatever you would need to. Same thing with Facebook. Most of the major manufacturers and software developers and stuff like that, they have free and open Facebook pages that you can read whatever you want to read and not have to belong at all. So that's another thing to kind of look at from the perspective if it's going through that kind of mental checklist that Webb's kind of mentioned. Hey, get the Nintendo thing, turn it on and back off, blow inside the cartridge, like stuff we've been doing since we were little kids to figure things out, right? Those things are not without merit. Like even though they say, oh, blowing in the cartridge didn't help. Well, mentally it did help when I blew in the cartridge and shook it and banged it on my leg for a couple of times and put it back. Ninja Turtles did come back on. Stop lying. I know it worked. Um, but yeah, having a scenario in which there is a checklist, a mental checklist that says these are the things that you need to do. Because if you have that, that's something you can instill in your students. And that's the other thing that right now, given the fact if you're in a boat like myself, now, I had a class 2 days ago. Everyone in the class has an iPad except for two students. One has some kind of Samsung, some kind of thing tablet that I've never seen before. And one has some laptop that I've never seen before. Now, Windows laptop, I'm like, all right, cool, I can figure this out. Not a problem. Laptops are generally going to do what I want it to do. I may have to use different verbiage and look, it may be a different key, hotkey combination in order to do what I need this kid to do, but it'll work. So one of the things that we're showing the kids how to do was split their screen so they could look at the Google Meet on one side and get their work done on the other side. So we could walk them through the instructions. Now, this is a first grade classroom. And the kid who has the Samsung, whatever the devil tablet is a second language learner. And it ain't Spanish. It's Swahili. So I'm sitting like, oh my God, like how the devil, what the devil kind of product is it? So I'm trying to negotiate with the kid, like, tell me what your screen looks like. And she's like, well, I said, is your grown up there? She's sleeping. I'm like, oh shoot. All right, so I get the iPad kids, we rock and roll. I'm like, I just need me and this kid just need to rock and roll. Now, I don't know what I know it's a Samsung. She said it's a Samsung, but I have no make or model. I have no idea what this thing is or anything. And they've got to be able to access Flipgrid, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm assuming that Samsung runs in the Google Play Store, which was not a correct assumption. But anyway, I went and I start Googling stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, I put this link in the chat. She clicks on it. It doesn't work. I'm like, okay. Put this link in there. Then I started looking at every Samsung model tablet I could. And we're on the phone, we're on the Google Meet for like 20 minutes. My goal is to get kids off in 15. So 20 minutes. And I learned more about Samsung tab. First of all, I will never buy a Samsung tablet ever. Like way too much work there, fam. But learn how to now I know every time I see this kid, she has a Samsung. I need to have Samsung instructions for this particular kid who again speaks Swahili as her first language, which is like I Spanish I can fudge through. Swahili, I have no idea what the actual rules of Swahili are. I don't even know how to say please and thank you in Swahili. It was really, very strange. We get the Flipgrid app on her deal. She downloads it, we're rock and rolling. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to hit that stop button to go and, get other work done. And she pops back on the call. I'm like, what's up? It says it's loading. I'm like, share your screen again. So it's just like spinning. I'm like, all right. Oh my God. What could this be? Like, what functionally could this be? And then I start thinking about other knowledge that I had. So iPads, like, what can't you do if you're going to record? You can't record on a Google Meet. That the camera can't be engaged at the same time. So the kid goes, she gets off, she goes back to her settings, she cuts it back on, and we're good to go. And the mom pops up and says, "Oh, thank you. Hey, she's good to go. She's gonna handle her business." I'm like, all right, cool. Now, I had never used a Samsung device before. I didn't know, and I don't still outside this one girl. I have no idea who else owns a Samsung. So if you own a Samsung tablet, like kudos to you. Like you are small but mighty, friend. I don't even know what the operating system is for a Samsung. It was just a pain in the butt to get Flipgrid on there. So that's the other thing to kind of think about. Like assumptions are horrible now. Like I had a kid, I have multiple kids. I don't know how many of the teachers are in this boat. I have multiple kids who they're on the Google Meet while they're in their car on the way to their babysitter. And so they're on mom's phone and you're trying to give the instructions out and you're like, there's no way this kid can do these instructions because you're on mom's phone, fam. You're not going to be able to actually do stuff. And so usually I'm like, hey, grown up, yeah, you driving the car. Like, he doesn't have to be on the meet right now, grown up person. Just be cool. Don't waste your data. Just wait until he gets to a babysitter and everything's in Canvas already. And the lady this morning was like, I'm assuming it was his mom, was like, thank you. Because it's painful having him on the phone while we're doing. I'm like, yeah, dude, just cut that crap off, B. Like, there's no reason to be doing that. Like, it's not that big of a deal, in my opinion. But that's like diverging into other like weird, like
That's like I have colleagues who will like take calls from restaurants and in the car driving. We had a meeting yesterday where the person who was supposed to be doing most of the talking like was not driving but like passengering and in a bad spot for cell connection, and I'm just like, why would you put yourself through this? Like, just either stop or reschedule the meeting. Like, that's fine. You don't have to don't I don't want you to struggle and I don't want us to struggle. Just call
But
it, man. It's fine.
but it also goes back to the like in the educators realm, the idea that you have to be present, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's such a corrosive idea to how things actually work, right? So all of the kids, and by tomorrow, every kid in that school will have all their work in Canvas. It'll all be there. You can go ahead at whatever pace you want. And they know the edict from Mr. Lang is you have a month to get my project done. What we will do on those like face to face calls, and we'll go in progress monitor and say, hey, look, yo, did you get X part done? Yeah. Did you? Does anybody have any struggles with this part of the project? No, we good. All right, cool. Deuces. I'll catch y'all next week. Excuse me. Email me when you got an issue. You have an issue. Um, like, why am I wasting your time, fam? Now, do we play games and read stories? Do I laugh and joke with them? Of course. But we can do that in 15, 20 minutes. There's no reason for you to stay on there for an hour just looking at each other about, some stuff that, again, I've already pre-recorded and you can go at your own pace. Um, but I think again, a very corrosive aspect to education where and you see this with the camera mafia, right? Your camera must be on. And if your camera is not on and you're in your pajamas, you got to go change your pajamas and you can't eat while you're on the camera. You can't, like, the camera mafia is really this. We're going to pretend that, and again, as a black male in America, constantly I am judged by what I look like. And especially as a black male who happens to dress the way that I do, you know, uh, there are multiple kids. Mr. Lang, um, if I didn't know you was a teacher, I wouldn't know you was a teacher. And I'm like, that's exactly this is how I roll, bro. I ain't wearing no suit and tie. I don't wear no neckties on. That's not how your boy get down. Now, if I'm meeting Obama or something like that, okay, cool. That's one thing. Um, but in terms of just like I'm gonna get up and wear a shirt and tie, I can do my job without doing that, fam. Um, but I think that there is again this very pervasive, corrosive idea that if I got kids that lay in their bed and take class. Why do I care? You're comfortable. You get my work done. God bless you, my dude. Samuel was the day. He's literally on his back with his iPad up like this, looking at the iPad. Yeah, Mr. Lang. Uh-huh. Oh, I got it. Good. 15 minutes later, he got his logo done. Why do I care how you came to my class as long as you got my work done, right? And why would I go? And this is the other thing, kind of thinking like employee-employer relationship. Why would I go and get angry at a productive employee, somebody who's going to do what I asked them to do, who could potentially, when enraged, go and poison other employees against me as well? Be like, look, Mr. Lang, that dude ain't cool, man. Nah, bro. He said that I was just chilling. I was minding my business, and he started yelling at me about X, Y, Z, this and that. Then you got some kind of like Yelp, like underground Yelp going around about your back about, the fact that, you sitting there busting somebody's chops about something that in the grand scheme of things doesn't really mean anything whatsoever.
And that makes your job even harder. So
That
like it does come back at you. I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are like, I don't care what people think about me. I remember that was a question they asked us when I was in college was like, um, would you rather be loved or feared? I think was the question.
yep.
And so many people were like, "Oh, I'd rather be feared. Like I don't care. I don't need people to like me, blah blah blah." But love is so much more of a powerful long-term sustainable energy and there's so much more that comes back from it than fear. Fear leads to burnout and people just leave. Like they walk away, they cause problems. Like there's a lot more headache that comes with fear than there is with
I
love.
think
Like
it's reverence. Like reverence is what you're
yeah.
actually
Yeah.
looking forward to. A situation where it's like your mom, right? You don't want your mom to be disappointed in you, right? Because there's a level of respect there that you like. This is someone I have to impress constantly. Show me that you love. I will do everything. I will like go over broken glass in order to do what you need to do. And so when you have your kids on that level of I want to impress you. I enjoy what you're doing. This is fun, etc. Then when you have some social capital that you've built up. So when Bob is acting a fool, you can say, "Hey, Bob, man, calm down. Oh, my bad, Mr. Lane." And we straight. Like there's no sass. There's nothing. But if you start with the sad this I'm gonna lay down a hammer and I have no relationship with you situation, or you're like The other thing that's very interesting, and I have had a story about this a couple colleagues. Remember, the grown-ups are listening on the other side of the call now, right? And so it's very interesting, um, how we have this mirror where, especially your kinders and your first. So if you're a specialist like myself, like you're dealing with, 5 year olds, 4.5 years old, 5 year old kids, all the way 10 11 year old kids. You have no idea who's sitting next to that kid whatsoever. And so, young man comes on today. He comes to the class. This is a first grader. Comes to the class. He's about 15 minutes late. And I'm like, all right, cool. So he comes to try to interrupt the class. I said, no, sir, you were late. You're gonna have to wait for a moment. I'm gonna go through the rest of the class, let everybody else go, and me and you will do what we need to do. And he goes and starts. His mom is there in the kitchen. You can see her behind there, and she's just like, I told you to get up from your nap. And so I was like, okay. He's like, all right, cool, moms. I mean, moms is straight. Moms understands what I'm doing. So we sit down there. I walk him through everything, log him in or whatever. And I also like, here's all the videos. So if you forgot a step, here's all the videos that grown up. The videos are all in Clever already. He just needs to go to his grade level. All the videos are there. You can do what you need to do. Well, thank you, Mr. Lane. I've been trying to tell this boy he need to be more responsible about doing And this is, you're sitting, you're like, Dad, had you went ballistic on the boy and crazy and not seen mom's back there cooking or whatever she was doing in the kitchen, then there's an opportunity for all kind of stuff to be, misinterpreted. But I have, and I hopefully other educators are feeling this too. There is a team dynamic that is like I really dig doing the online stuff. Like I'm getting to know parents that I would never get to know before because with 800 and some odd kids, you don't get to meet all the parents. Now the parents are sitting there, and you having small talk with the parents as the kids are working or when they're coming on and stuff, and it's really kind of cool. And you also, that's another point of information that you can get, right? So in terms about solving problems, I don't know how to get your kid involved with class. Well, he likes this, and that. I'm hearing that directly from mom on the call. We're good. I don't got to do no digging. I don't have to figure out over a period of weeks. Mom gonna tell me exactly how we get down. We had your little 5 year old kid. A lot of your kindergartner friends have speech issues, like speech impediments. A lot of the kids who are older that you have experience with, I can make out exactly what you're saying. The kindergarten, I'm like, I have no idea what this kid is saying. Mom is interpreting for me, saying this is what he's saying. Oh, cool. Cool. Thanks, mom. Appreciate you. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for telling us what your favorite food is. It sounded like a bunch of, I thought the boy was speaking Swedish or something, and the mom interprets everything perfectly. Like, awesome. We're good to go. So again, utilizing all avenues of information allows you not to be special and therefore to be special. Because I mean, a lot of stuff that I know about them kids now, I have no idea whatsoever, yo.
So many like more frequent touch points too. So it's not just that one time at or that those 2 or 3 times a year at parent teacher conferences. You're getting these everyday like lower stress interactions. Maybe not all of them are lower stress,
Mm.
but these lower stress interactions. And I feel like I would think it would make a parent feel more comfortable and more like, hey, I'm contributing as well. Like I can be helpful in this way. Like and in a very easy, like low stress way. I just need you to tell me what your kid said because I have no idea.
Facts. And the other thing is like part of it,
ABP, always be pairing.
yeah, and then always be pairing and always try to do your work in the most efficient way possible. So what I build K2, there is a grown up section that says, hey, grown up, you and your kid are going to do a project together. I shot the videos already, fam. I don't care if you can't read or whatever. This is family time. Sit with the fam. You sit together and do what you need to do, fam. And now we have this video, like for example, kindergartens have to make videos about their little rocket ships. Great. They have the little independent work, and at the bottom it says, "With your grown up, do X," and we walk them through. So the next time we come on to our call or whatever, everyone's good. But I think utilizing the parents and like exploiting the grown up, and saying, "Yo, this is what happens," even if the grown up is a cousin or a older brother or sister or some kid at middle school or whatever. Man, utilizing those kids. So now you have to interact with your little brother, little sister, or your cousin or whatever to build XYZ. Webs.
In addition to the Googles, there is the YouTubes
Facts.
And so you can find just about anything on the YouTubes. I figured out how to change my sink. Um, I learned what a basin wrench was on YouTubes. I learned how to swap out an outlet on YouTubes. How to switch the ballast in my light in my kitchen. You can find just about anything, like how to do pivot tables in Excel, or how to um, if you're stuck on something and have a problem, YouTube might have it. Sometimes, even if you just do a Google search, YouTube videos will come up in your search. So that's another really large resource of information if you're trying to learn how to do things. Um, yeah.
Yeah, but also like utilizing that in your
We
class.
have a crap ton of videos on YouTube.
Fact, but also like, why do you have to create some brand new video when a video already exists? If video ain't your thing, take someone else's video and say he's going to teach you how to do X, Y, Z. God bless you. Like a lot of this stuff is also this like weird, I guess almost like I won't call it messianic, but always like it's like really weird when you have to make your own crap all the time. It's like, look, fam, like high quality stuff on YouTube that's really slick, that's already done. Take that crap, put it in the Nearpod when the Nearpod is working, and put your little questions in the Nearpod. Rock and roll. So and so already explained it. SciShow kids, National Geographic kids, PBS kids, whatever. Webs.
I kind of get that because one of my frustrations, because I was so particular when I was in the classroom, was by the time I watched 5 videos to find something that I liked, I could have just made the thing I wanted. Now, I know not everybody feels that way, but that was one of my frustrations. Like, I was right there on the edge skill wise, where like I could put together a decent video, or I could watch 6 of them and maybe I'll find the one that I'm looking for that has the information I want. But I also feel like resources have come a lot farther since the time when I was in the classroom because it evolves really quickly. Like, there are a ton of resources that if I were in the classroom today, I think I would probably use. I think SciShow Kids was still around. SciShow Kids, there are a few other channels that I watched with my kids when I was in my last year in the classroom.
All of the PBS stuff, and again, full disclosure, I'm a PBS digital innovator, so I rep the PBSs. But if you're not on PBS Learning Media, just stealing their stuff, taking it, there's a lot of stuff that can just be straight downloaded and you can integrate it into your own videos if you needed to. Take their stuff and say, okay, cool. I am going to cut out this. So, um,
I feel like that has matured a lot in the last 4
5 years.
years,
Yep.
5 years. Yeah.
But they definitely have high quality. I was on a call with them today. They've got some sprints and stuff that you can throw together. Actually, I'm going to share that in the chat right now, real quick. They've got like this really dynamic 8 week like units that are already built. They're going to pull out 4 of those, so that's what 32 weeks of instruction that you don't have, all like around high interest stuff, civics and diversity and being a good friend, like easy stuff that you can just say, I can plug this into any part of my school year and rock and roll. And it's also built around when different programs are going to be shown on PBS. You could also have that natural tie-in that you're going to do something in class and then you're going to go home and watch XYZ with your grown-ups. You and Daniel Tiger are going on this adventure that he gets to meet new friends or whatever the devil it is. But SciShow Kids, high quality. Nat Geo Kids, high quality. And this is stuff that kids go. Animals, you can't lose with that crap, fam. That's my first day. What is your favorite animal, kid? And every kid got an animal that they love. There's never animals, especially dinosaurs. Go ahead, Webbs.
OER Commons, Big History Project. Like, there are so many resources out there that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, there's a ton of stuff.
And also like just and this is not the actual resource, but I'm going to show you, this is what I start off my school, my day with my kinders and first graders every class, because all their work is already done. What do I want to do? Build relationships and entertain people. So what can we do? Yo, fam, they got the kids read alongs already built for your boy. You got Joy Harjo. We got Matthew McConaughey's wife, Camilla Alves McConaughey, reading the story. Victoria Khan, I have no idea what that is. You got the beautiful people, Nicole Ari Parker and Boris Kojo there. But there's tons of stories that are already. I ain't got to take my phone out and record no story because they already got Obama's there 55 million times. All these stories are there, and they get updated all of the time. So I'm gonna take this stuff and say, how can I build lessons around somebody else's story? They're diverse, so we want a diversity piece and seeing, BIPOC and all that kind of stuff, different people representing their cultures and whatnot. That's there. I don't have to go looking for the stories. They're gonna read the stories for me. Great. I take this and I'm just gonna demonstrate this very, very quickly. All right, cool. Hello Neighbor with Matthew McCordle. Great. I'm gonna hit the YouTube button. I'm gonna pause that. I'm simply gonna steal that. Bada bing. I'm gonna go right to the Nearpod. I'm gonna go log in the Nearpod. I'm gonna start a video. I'm gonna go right to the YouTubes. That's the story that I want. Great. Yeah. Go find my video, genius. For real though. Maybe Nearpod is still trying to represent. Let me see Matthew Cordell. So the other, when in doubt. All right, Matthew Cordell reads how I can search some keywords. So if it doesn't work one way, it works another way. God bless you.
Perfect example of problem solving. Like, because it doesn't work the way you expect does not mean give up. There usually, if it's a search bar, if you can't use the URL, you can just search with search terms. Like, there are ways to work around it. You don't have to feel like because the one way that, also never know one way to do things. Just like the reason why we focus on like number sense and math is solving things multiple ways, so that if you're in a certain situation, you use a different tool. Same thing with this type of problem solving. Don't just learn the one way to do the thing. Find other ways to work around it, so that if that way doesn't work, you can go at it this way or this way or this way. That's the importance of this whole idea of problem solving. And there's a level of resilience too. Like Mike was saying earlier, you're modeling this for your students. So if you try to do something, it doesn't work, and you just quit, what are you saying to them about how to go about being resilient and problem solving?
Facts. Hit the save button. Now, the cool thing about the YouTube videos, it doesn't matter how long it is. It's a 21-minute video. With your videos, whether you're district plan or not district plan, it's going to limit the amount of actual spaces that it's hosting your video. So it's better to upload things into YouTube, and this is a great strategy to utilize as well for your asynchronous learning. So if you want to embed questions into your asynchronous learning, take your asynchronous video, and we've done some stuff on Flipgrid Shorts and things like that. Upload that into YouTube. Create your little YouTube. You can unlist it, so if you don't want it to be publicly accessible, it's totally cool. Take that, place it right inside here, and you can come in here and add the activities as you open-ended questions or multiple choice questions. This is supposed to be getting some other functionality soon, but right now, open-ended questions, and these is like, I call them grown-up questions. Grown-up, you're gonna ask your student X, Y, and Z. Great, and they can type the little answer in there. Oh, he really liked the fact that the spaceship was pink. Okay, cool. Multiple choice questions, you can add, it doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to be purely recall question. It could be, did you like this story? Yes or no? If you had to change a character, which one of these characters would you change? All kind of weird stuff like that. But I'm hit the save button anyway. Yeah. I don't care about that. Cancel. All right, cool. We're going to pretend that we embedded some stuff. Hit the save button. I'm going to call this Mr. Rogers.
While you're doing that, we have about 6 minutes left, and I want to know from the folks watching, are there specific topics or questions you have, or things you want to know about, things you want to hear us talk about? You can put those in the comments, tweet us, put it on YouTube, put it on Facebook, because I'd really be curious from the folks who are watching, like, what do you want to hear about? What questions do you have that we can answer?
Student pace thing all the time and embed that where you need to embed it. Google Classroom, whatever, like the kids do it when they want to. It's also, again, it's kind of cool to do family time stuff, right? Or grandma time or whatever it is. So again, the Nearpod stuff really, really gets down. The fact that everyone in CCSD has access to it, that makes it a tool that's worthwhile. Um, and again, all the PBS stuff, even if I didn't, I decided I'm just going to go to PBS Kids itself. PBS Kids. Look at all the stuff they have already. 4 episodes of Daniel Tiger. All that, it's already built for you. Find it on the thing. Find what you're looking for in particular. Take the video. Use that as the linchpin for your lesson. There you go. We already got the kids going to want to watch it. You throw your questions in there and do little activities afterward. And there are not many kids that are not going to be down with that. But subscribe to those things as well. This is our business channel, so I'm not going to subscribe to it. But subscribe to this stuff as well. Get yourself an opportunity to work less hard. Like right now, fam, it is experiment and chill time. It should not be. I'm up till like the little memes. I'm up till 2 in the morning writing lesson plans for 5 hours, and 4 hours, or 4 minutes of instruction. Well, that shouldn't happen at all. That's that's insane actually. That you're not whatever you got planned, plan for half of it, and then give the kids the week to do what they need to do. And just me and some of the teachers that I'm working with, like we have fun. We're doing gym kits, we're doing cahoots, we're reading a story. Kids are eating snacks and stuff while we're on there, and I'm like, all right, cool, fam. Everybody know what they need to do today? Yep. All right. I can go and do other stuff and whatnot. The other thing is like, in terms of this like knowledge based stuff. If you're in a grade level with other teachers, man, ain't no reason for you to be working by yourself, fam. Especially if you're using Canvas. Like somebody can build the module and give it to everybody else, and we're good to go. Like straight up and down. Like, and if you're not looking at Canvas, if you're using Google Classroom right now, start to dabble with Canvas with the idea that next year that's something that you're going to tackle because Canvas is not going anywhere. It is the if you're in the Nevada teacher watching this, it is the state learning management system, and Google Classroom is not really a learning management system. It is a large container in which things overflow out of and confuse people. But great for right now, but next year not so much. Webs.
Most places also have blogs as a way of selling their product. So they want you to know how to use it and how to use it in a bunch of different ways. So like Nearpod has a blog. I'm sure like what other tools are there? I'm pretty sure Canvas has a blog.
Google,
So that's another what?
all of Google. Google has a blog that tells
Oh yeah.
all their stuff, right?
So many things, yeah. So look up the blog for whatever tool you're trying to use too, because they'll give you a bunch of different ideas of how to use it. Some common things that people get stuck on. Like their whole goal is for you to be happy using their product. So take advantage of that so that you can, reduce the amount of frustration and headache. So, and just to recap, we've talked about you can just Google anything. You can do a Google search of whatever it is plus Twitter. That might help. You can look for the status page if something is down. You can search for blog plus whatever you're talking about, so that maybe you could find the blog. Sometimes knowledge base, if you search for knowledge base plus whatever it is. Communities, that's another big one, is a lot of places will have communities where people post their questions. Like I mentioned, Stack Overflow at the top of the show. They'll have something similar to that where like people just post their questions and other people respond to them with what they know about the product. So that's another place where you might find some resources on how to use a specific tool.
And Reddit, you don't have to have a Reddit account to access Reddit. And if you have been on Reddit, there's some really weird parts of Reddit, but a lot of it is question and answers. Hey, I got this issue, rock and roll. Discord is another place I like to go now where there'll be more creative people that are saying, hey, this is how you do a certain thing. And this is some stuff. I'm doing an animation class right now in Discord. So
I
go
was just watching a video about how to use Twitch to teach lessons.
So the dope thing about Twitch, the dope thing about Twitch is that Twitch is dope. The bad thing about Twitch is that some school districts are blocking Twitch access kids access to Twitch. So Twitch is awesome. I stream some of my games through Twitch. If you're a gamer, Mixer went the way the dodo. So Microsoft tried to compete, and it
They
got
they moved the Mixer devs to the Teams team.
interesting.
Very.
Interesting. But yeah, Twitch is a dope product, man. Especially like my brother and I hopefully gonna be grinding a little bit in Gears of War 5. I do stream a lot of my stuff through there. It's a great way to embed things as well. The other thing is like Google YouTube Live, teaching off YouTube Live. And so that's my next kind of, once I get the kids like big into here's how Canvas works, is YouTube Live and everything. We're like, look, fam, we're just gonna have a show and inviting kids onto the show and we act a fool and whatnot. Um, so yeah. So you're not special because you are special. And that's why you should be Googling stuff and asking other people questions and like figuring things out and teaching your kids how to do that as well. And also, and I had another kid that I have to go, help again in terms of like, don't put the entire email in the subject bar. Like, fam, we don't do that. So, like the subject was totally blank and it was Mr. Lang, how do we do this and that? I'm like, I could have sworn we went over this. So let me go and I'm going to reiterate. This is how we write emails. You just give me a, hey, Mr. Lang, I need help. Cool. What do you need help with, Bob? Let's put that in the body of the email. So, writing emails, that's something else we should all be teaching kids how to do right now because that's kind of important. Yeah. That's all I got. That's all I got.
It's true.
That's all I got. All right. We are taking Sunday off. There will be no Sunday hustle, but Saturday. If you are not signed up for the Q, Nevada, Silver State
Tech innovation.
Tech Innovation Hustle. Webs, did you throw that inside? Did you throw that in the chat?
I did.
Uh,
And I tweeted it.
Excellent. So you can go check that out. We will be behind the scenes handling that business. Joan Ebert, our very esteemed superintendent, will be our keynote speaker. There'll be some Canvas stuff there. There'll be some Google stuff there. There'll be some fun times. Or hopefully crack some jokes. You'll get some good old credits for your re-upping on your license and whatnot if you show up. I don't. CUs, no CUs.
I think it all depends. Like I think there will be, or I think there will be certificates if folks are interested. But yeah, it's up to CCSD whether they want to honor CUs or not.
So CUs can't guarantee them, but you'll get certificates.
I'm also sharing the link to the Q Nevada site. You can sign up and register. I think membership is free. So yeah, that's a great organization if you want to know more about opportunities to do PD. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can visit our website. I think that's all the things.
It is all the things. So we will see
Okay.
you
Oh, our
next.
Patreon.
Oh, Patreon, yeah. So Patreon,
Yeah.
new hustles in every Monday. Um, New stuff that we're working on, playing around with, etc. Um, Opportunities, Patreon opportunities that other people aren't going to have. All that wonderful stuff.
Get first looks at stuff.
Indeed, indeed. So we will see you next Friday Eve. That's 1 week from today. There is no show on Sunday. Check out Jesus and Mero though, man. If you like our show, Jesus and Mero has kind of been my inspiration behind this whole hustle. Just because they're hilarious and they're pop culture junkie people. And we're probably going to hopefully have the homie Valerie Roski next Thursday on
Yep.
our third panelist here to kind of act a fool. She's a very fun person. I really dig her. She's another software developer type person, and we'll come up with some straight lunacy to converse with her about. So
Cool.
that's it. Let's do the fizzang.
Do the thing.
All right, we will see you next Thursday. Next Friday Eve. Same bat time, same bat channel. God
Bye,
bless.
everybody.